Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. To you, Lord, I'm grateful, Allah the sustainer. For sins I'm remorseful, Allah the forgiver. For blessings I'm hopeful, Allah the bestower. Gracious and merciful, Allah the creator. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق أجمعين محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. We are discussing about infallibility of the prophets in the Holy Quran, and we discussed in the previous lecture about infallibility of Prophet Adam and how we explain the verses of the Holy Quran which might lead to understanding that he may not be infallible, and we explained that it is not in that way, but he is infallible. Now we are discussing about infallibility of Prophet Noah, Prophet Noah alayhi salam. The ayahs in the Holy Quran which discuss the main points about Prophet Noah alayhi salam, and the words used in the Holy Quran which might be misunderstood as against infallibility of the Prophet Noah are in Surah Hud, ayah 45 to 47. ونادى نوح ربه فقال رب إن ابني من أهلي وإن وعدك الحق وأنت أحكم الحاكمين قال يا نوح إنه ليس من أهلك إنه عمل غير صالح فلا تسألني ما ليس لك به علم إني أعظك أن تكون من الجاهلين قال ربي إني أعوذ بك أن أسألك ما ليس لي به علم وإلا تغفر لي وترحمني أكن من الخاسرين. The translation, Surah number 11, ayah 45, and Noah cried out to his Lord and said, My Lord, surely my son is of my family, and thy promise is surely true, and you are the most just of the judges. He said, O Noah, surely he is not of your family, surely he is the doer of other than good deeds. Therefore ask not of me that of which you have no knowledge. Surely I admonish you that you may be of the ignorant. He said, Prophet Noah said, My Lord, I seek refuge in thee from asking you that of which I have no knowledge, and if you should not forgive me and have mercy on me, I should be of the losers. So here there are 3 points which needs to be elaborated about Prophet Noah alayhi salam. The first point, when Prophet Noah called Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to know the story before, Prophet Noah salamullahi alayhi has called his people for 950 years in order to believe, but most of them were non-believer, only few of the people were believers. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked him to build the ark, and when he built the ark, made the ark, he put the people and animals, the believers and the animals in the ark, and then the rain has come, the flood has come, which covered the earth. Those who were non-believers were drowned. Now Prophet Noah saw his son is among the people who are going to be drowned. So he had a promise from Allah before that, in advance, that will save you and your family, except those who are who were decreed not to be saved. Now we are going to discuss that. But in short, he saw his son and he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, oh Allah, my son is among my family, and you have promised me that you will save my family, so save my son. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replied him that, no, your son is not from your family. He did a wrongdoing, and you should not ask me what you do not know. Then naturally Prophet Noah replied that, oh Allah, I take refuge with you that to ask you what I do not know, and if you do not forgive me, I will be among the losers. So the argument which comes here, they say, how come Prophet Noah asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to say that my son is among my family, when Allah tells him that your son is not among your family? So is that a type of lie from Noah to say when his son was not from his family, or what? Allah later on told him that he is not from your family. So how come he asked that my son is of my family? That is one argument. The second argument or a question or a query might come that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked him, فَلَا تَسْأَلْنِي مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ. Do not ask me what you know not. I admonish you that you may be of the ignorant, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is preaching him so that he should not be among the ignorant people. So it is not, the argument that it is not right and not proper for the prophets to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala something they do not know. So how come the prophet asked Allah that question? The third query might come when he asked forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the third ayah, وَإِلَّا تَغْفِرْ لِي, and if you will not forgive me and have your mercy on me, I should be among the losers. So if he asks for forgiveness, it shows naturally he must have committed a sin, and a sin is against infallibility. So these are actually the 3 points which needs to be elaborated about infallibility of a prophet Noah alayhi salam. About the first argument, that asking for salvation of his son, when he said that my Lord, my son is from my family, so that is there because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised him to save him and his family, except those who were decreed not to be saved. If we read in Surah Hud, the ayah number 40, before these ayahs, we say, وَلْنَحْمِلْ فِيهَا مِنْ كُلٍّ زَوْجَيْنِ اثْنَيْنِ وَأَهْلَكَ إِلَّا مَنْ سَبَقَ عَلَيْهِ الْقَوْلُ وَمَنْ آمَنَ وَمَا آمَنَ مَعَهُ إِلَّا قَلِيلٌ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, we say, carry in it in the ark 2 of all things, a pair, and your own family, except those against whom the word has already gone forth. Well, it looks there are certain people, one or more, in which the word of Allah has decreed that they are non-believer and they do not deserve to be saved. So Allah asked the Prophet to carry the believers and his family, because he would say وَأَهْلَكِ, and your own family, except those against whom the word has already gone forth. إِلَّا مَنْ سَبَقَ عَلَيْهِ الْقَوْلُ. So here the son is naturally among the family. So the asking of Prophet Noah is for that, because he knows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him, carry yourself, the believers, and your family members, except, as it is said, his wife, because his wife was non-believer, like wife of Prophet Lut, alayhi salam, she was also non-believer. So, except his wife, or as it said, those in which Allah has decided not to be there. So asking the Prophet Noah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about his son is not something lying or something untrue. Allah promised him to save him and his family, and then he saw his son is drowning, and he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you promised me to save me and my family, and my son is among my family. So that question is a natural question. If there are some exceptions, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala later on told him that your son is among the losers or the non-believers, that does not mean a lie from the Prophet. The Prophet asked because there is a promise from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also in another ayah in Surah Al-Mu'mineen, similar things were mentioned, in Surah Al-Mu'mineen, ayah 27. So we revealed to him, saying, make the ark before our eyes and according to our revelation, and when our command is given and the valley overflows, take into the ark of every kind a pair, two, and your followers, except those among them against whom the word has gone forth. So two, and وَأَهْلَكَ here, and your family, except. Now he translated أَهْلَكَ, your followers. We'll discuss why the translator used followers, because that later on will be shown that the family means those who are believers. If the son is non-believer, he is not regarded out of the family. That is why the translator here used the translation of Shakir. He said, and your followers. Actually, Ahl in Arabic family, but the family here means all the believers. All the believers are your family. So, the question here that the Prophet Noah, his question was, his request from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was normal, because he knows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised to save him and his family, and his children naturally is among his family. There was no previous understanding that his children will be drowned. About his wife, maybe that is mentioned, that is إِلَّا مَنْ سَبَقَ عَلَيْهِ الْقَوْلِ, except the one whom we have decreed that they should be drowned. So that is why he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about it. We cannot say that the son is not part of the family. Naturally in Arabic language, the son is among the family of the person. So there is no lie here to say that the Prophet Noah lied to say my son, and then Allah said he is not of your family. He is not of your family should be understood in a different way, but what I mean, as a family relations, naturally the son is one of his family members. Well, these are one of the answers which is given by some of the Mufassirin, some of those who wrote exegesis of the Holy Quran. But actually, the question whether the son of a Prophet Noah was frankly non-believer, or frankly he was believer but by heart he was non-believer, he was hypocrite, which one? If we say frankly he was non-believer, but still Prophet Noah thought that he is one of the family members, and then he asked for his salvation, the previous argument will come, which was discussed by some of the people who wrote exegesis of the Holy Quran. But actually it looks very unlikely that the son of Prophet Noah was non-believer. It looks apparently he was a believer. That is why his father asked for salvation of his son. Why we say that apparently he looks to be a believer, though secretly he was non-believer? First of all, it is very unusual to believe that Prophet Noah will ask for salvation of a believer, a non-believer. Why? Because before in Prophet Noah, he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as in Surah Nuh, ayah 26 and 27, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, رَبِّي لَا تَذَرْ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ دَيَّارًا. O my Lord, do not leave on earth among the non-believers anyone. إنك إن تذرهم يضلوا عبادك ولا يلدوا إلا فاجرا كفارا. If you leave them, they will mislead your servants and will not give birth except to the non-believers and the bad people. So when the Prophet himself asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to destroy the non-believers, because them and whoever will come of their offsprings in the future will be non-believer, how come he asked for his son to be saved if he knew frankly that his son was a non-believer? It's very unusual that a prophet will ask that. Secondly, the word إلا من سبق عليه القول, except those in which you have decreed to be unsaved. If there are some people mentioned who said that it was, he understood only his wife, maybe his wife and his son. So if his son was a frankly non-believer, so how can we say only his wife? His son will come under that also. There is no proof that only his wife, the ayah, except those whom we decreed before that they will not be saved. His wife was one of them because she was non-believer. If his son was a frankly non-believer, naturally he will be included with this. So it shows his son was not known to be a non-believer. Thirdly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he asked him to build the folk, he said to him, وَلَا تُخَاطِبْنِي فِي الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا إِنَّهُمْ مُغْرَقُونَ. In Surah Hud, ayah 37. Do not talk to me about those who were unjust, because they will be drowned. So if Allah told him for those who are unjust, naturally the believers are unjust, so they will be drowned, and you do not ask me. So how come the Prophet will ask about his son? So all those points shows that we cannot understand or accept the view that Prophet Noah knew frankly his son to be non-believer, yet he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to save him. It shows that frankly he was not among the non-believers. He was believer, he is with father, do not show that his faith and what is in his heart, but in his heart he was not really believer. So that is why Prophet Noah, because he had the promise Allah will save him and save his family, he knew his wife was not good, so he expected his wife to be drowned, but he did not know about his son. That is why he asked about his son. So here the request of a Prophet Noah from his son also shows this point. In Surah Hud, ayah 42, the ayahs before the ayah we started with 45. When you go to ayah 42, he said, يَا بُنَيْ أَرْكَبْ مَعَنَا وَلَا تَكُمْ مَعَ الْكَافِرِينَ. O my son, embark with us and be not with the unbelievers. So you see, if he was unbeliever, naturally the son would have been drowned with the unbelievers. The Prophet is asking his son, embark with us and do not be with the unbelievers. Do not be among the non-believers. Because if he was non-believer, he said, do not be among the non-believers. As the question that you are a believer, they are non-believer, don't be with, not part of them. So it shows apparently he was a believer. Others were non-believer. وَلَا تَكُنْ مَعَ. مَعَ is with. Min is from. So the question is not min al-jahilin, because from them he is part of them. Already he is non-believer and part of them, but that is not the ayah. Say ma'a. Ma'a, do not be with the unbelievers. So it shows that apparently he was a believer, and the Prophet was asking him that embark the ark, do not be with those who are non-believers. So again, this will support the idea that frankly it shows that his son was a believer, but in heart he was non-believer. That is why the son refused, and he said, I will go to top of a mountain, and that mountain will prevent me from drowning. And ultimately water reached the top of the mountain and he was drowned. So this is the question. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replied to Noah, to Prophet Noah, the answer, who is your family and who is not your family. It looks like here is a query about Prophet Noah. He looks that his son apparently is among his family, and Allah promised him to save his family. So how come his son is drowned? So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is explaining to him that your family are not those who are near to you from your relation, but all the believers are your family. See, like the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said about Salman al-Farisi, he said, Salman minna ahl al-bayt. Salman is among us ahl al-bayt. Well, Salman is from Iran, from Persia, and ahl al-bayt are descendants of Hashim. They are Sayyids, descendant of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. So how come Salman come among ahl al-bayt? He is regarded among ahl al-bayt by his good deeds, by his faith, by his right practices. So the family here, the ahl, your family or your relations, or what he translated, your followers, they are the real family. So those who follow the Prophet are the real family of the Prophet. And those who do not follow the Prophet, they are not family of the Prophet, even if they are his wife or his son, his daughter. So it is not blood relation which count actually, but it is the faith and the practices which count. If his faith is right and if his practices are right, he is regarded as a follower, or let us say as family, one family. When the Holy Quran said, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ أَخْوَةً, surely the believers are brothers. Naturally, brother, you call to your blood relation, who is son of your father and your mother, he is your brother. But the Holy Quran says, all the believers are brothers to each other. So that brotherhood is a brotherhood of faith, not brotherhood of family relation or blood relation. So here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is explaining to the Prophet Noah that your family are those who are believers and not those who are non-believers. The non-believers will be drowned. So that was the discussion about it. Well, this is used in the Holy Quran in some other places about the believers and the family. And here even the Holy Quran is saying, وَمَنْ آمَنَ مَعَكَ, you take in the ark those who believe with you, the believers. And وَمَا آمَنَ مَعَهُ إِلَّا قَلِيلٌ, those who were believers were only few of them. So the Holy Quran is telling the Prophet Noah alayhi salam that your family are the religious people, the believers, all of them, but those who are not a believer are exceptions, and it was decreed in advance that they will be drowned. إِلَّا مَنْ سَبَقَ عَلَيْهِ الْقَوْلِ. So that is the answer about the first question, which is we discussed about this ayah. The second one, it said, then how come Allah will tell him, فَلَا تَسْأَلْنِي مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ, do not ask me what you know not. Well, there are many answers written in the books of exegesis of the Holy Quran that Prophet Noah alayhi salam asked Allah with whatever was apparent. Apparently his son was from his family, because that is his blood relation. So he was not lying in that. And the question is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a different criteria, and he told him, because he is a non-believer, he is not among your family, so took him out of the family. But does not mean to say my family is a lie, to say how come the Prophet lied. That was not lie, it was a true, that his son was his blood relation, is part of his family. But then Allah told him that what is really meant by your family are the believers. So we cannot say that there is a lie here. And he is not asking Allah with what he does not know. He's asking Allah what he knows. He said, I know my son is my family member, mean blood relation, family member, and that is what he knows. He has not asked what he does not know. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teach him something else. He said, no, what is meant by your family are all the believers, so you should not ask for those who are non-believers to be saved, even if they are among your family, like your son or anybody else. Of course, his wife, he did not ask about his wife, because already that was known. إِلَّا مَنْ سَبَقَ عَلَيْهِ الْقَوْلِ, it was known, it was decreed that she will be drowned. Well, the answer of Allama Tabatabai actually in his Tafsir al-Mizan is much better than this answer, which is written in Tafsir al-Kashaf I have just mentioned. Allama Tabatabai said, actually the Prophet Noah did not ask Allah to save his son. So there was no. Prophet Noah looked to the situation. He found his son is drowning. He knew Allah has promised to save his family members, and his family members apparently include his son. Before he asked, it came in his mind that what is happening now, Allah promised me, and how the promise of Allah will be fulfilled. My son is nearly to be drowned, So he wanted to ask then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala right away to protect him, being a prophet and is an infallible prophet. He right away replied to him, told him that if you see the situation strange, that you were promised that your son will be saved, and now you see your son is drowning and something strange for you, it is because your son is not of your family members, and you should not ask me about him. So right away Prophet Noah realized, and that it was actually protection of Allah for Prophet Noah to remain infallible without asking Allah. So Allah replied him, or let us say revealed to him right away, that yours, before he wanted to ask, Allah revealed it to him that he is not of your family. So he did not ask, actually Allah told him that you should not ask what you know not. Then the reply said, إِنِّي أَعُوذُ بِكَ أَنْ أَسْأَلَكَ مَا لَيْسَ لِي بِهِ عِلْمٍ. See, right away he said that I take refuge to you, that to ask you مَا لَيْسَ لِي بِهِ عِلْمٍ. You see, the word in Arabic that I will ask you, he did not say I take refuge in you for what I have already asked you, because already he did not ask. If he would have asked already, the sentence should be إني أعوذ بك مما سألتك. I take refuge to you because of what I have already asked you. But it is not like that. I seek refuge in you from asking you that of which I have no knowledge. Asking you, that is in the future, so it did not happen in the past. So Allama Tabatabai actually explained it in this way, and he said actually there was no request from Prophet Noah, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made him infallible and prevented him from having that question and put his heart. Of course, that point is there in the Holy Quran, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will inspire his prophets so that they will remain infallible. We see in Surah Al-Isra, Ayah 75, وَلَوْلَا أَنْ ثَبَّتْنَاكَ لَقَدْ كُنْتَ تَرْكَنُ إِلَيْهِمْ شَيْئًا قَلِيلًا. About Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, if it was not that we have supported you to be very stable, you would have inclined toward them a little while, toward what the mushrikeen have asked the Prophet. They asked him a question, and he tried, let us say, to accept, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, if we were not supporting you, you would have inclined toward them. But because we have supported you, naturally you did not incline to accept their offer. So it is always possible that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspire the prophets so that they will not do a mistake or do any sin. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired the Prophet Noah about his son right away. When he was in a situation which looks strange to him, and he seeing his son to be drowned, and he expected his son to be saved, and before he asked Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired him right away that if you see the situation is strange, that is because your son is not among your family members, and you do not know, so do not ask of what you do not know about it. So right away he realized, you say, I take refuge in you to ask you what I do not know. So actually nothing was wrong with that to say that it is against infallibility of the Prophet Noah. About the third argument, you say, وَإِلَّا تَغْفِرْ لِي وَتَرْحَمْنِي أَكُنْ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ, the ayah 47 of Surah Hud. If you should not forgive me and have mercy on me, I should be of the losers. Here does not mean if you do not forgive me, man, he was sinful, you know. That is actually a way of praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and thanking Allah for his bounty and his blessings. So it is a way to say that always if you do not forgive me, then I will lose. But because you have forgiven me, I did not lose. So I am remembering your blessings to me and your favor to me. It does not mean that he committed a sin and now, because of that sin, he is asking for forgiveness to say he is not infallible and he committed a sin. That does not mean this. The word in Arabic is not that, So here, he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for maghfirah. Maghfirah may be used as forgiveness, but its meaning in Arabic is sitr. Ghafara means satara, to cover. If you do not cover my weaknesses, I will be among the losers. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala covered his weakness. Allah covered his weakness because it inspired him right away that your son is not among your family, so you do not ask about him because you don't know what is in his heart. You are looking to your son, apparently he was a believer, but in his heart he was non-believer, he was hypocrite. So right away Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired him not to ask, and he did not ask. So here he said, if you do not cover me, taghfir, ghafara, not to forgive for a sin, actually to cover my weaknesses, my mistakes, let's say. And Allah has covered that weakness, and it was covered because it was inspired not to ask, and he did not ask, so apparently everything was alright. But that alright was by inspiration or revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to him. So that is the way, that is what we say, it is a way of praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that all in your hand. If you would not have covered my mistake or my weakness, then I would have done a mistake. So thank you that you have covered it. So it is a word, not always when you say taghfir li means forgive me because I did a sin. No, that is not always. As we discussed about Prophet Adam alayhi salam, that is not really a sin that we think, it is covering. Well, sometimes we have weaknesses always. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will cover them, and then will not commit practically those mistakes. If it was not the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we probably would have done the mistake. But it was the blessing of Allah there. That is why we are saved to do the mistake. So here the same thing. Prophet Noah alayhi salam asked that it's good that you have covered my weaknesses, and that is why I did not commit any sin, and you have saved me, otherwise I would have been among the losers. So all that, if we go to the right explanation, just to summarize what we have said, we said the question of a Prophet Noah alayhi salam about his son, either because he did not know his son was an apparently kafir, and because there was a promise, then he tried to ask, but actually according to Khalil Tabatabai, he did not ask that, but that query came in his mind because he saw his son is to be drowned, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala right away told him that your son is not among your family. I promise to save your family. Your family are those who are believers, who are religious. And your son is, let us say, like your wife, who are going to be drowned. So do not be astonished and do not ask about the situation. So he right away realized what is happening, and he praised Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that it was you who covered my ignorance about the state by revelation, by extra knowledge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And now he knows that his son was hypocrite and his weakness was covered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before he commit any, let us say, wrong question, which even if you would have asked may not be a sin, but is not supposed to be asked by a prophet, as we said, because the prophets are at a very great position, so it is not expected from them to ask for salvation of a non-believer, even if he is their son. When he asks all the non-believers to be drowned, he should not have an exception for his son. But as we explained, he did not even ask that. He only saw the situation and saw his son apparently looks among the non-believers is drowned. And before he asked, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to him, protected him, and he told him that your son is not among the believers, so don't ask about things that you don't know. And right away he said, well, oh my God, I take refuge in you to ask you what I do not know. And then he praised Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that if you would not have covered my weakness, let us say, then I would have been among the losers. But because Allah covered that weakness by revealing to him and giving him extra knowledge to know that his son is not among his family members or among his followers, among his believers, so he did not ask, and that was all right. So this is in short how to understand the story of a Prophet Noah alayhi salam, and what is mentioned is not against infallibility of the Prophet Noah ala nabiyina wa alihi wa alayhi salam. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa alihi at-tahirin. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum.